we want to apply the various patterns of data monetization. So as I mentioned, I've been collecting these stories for years, kind of done a meta-analysis of all these stories and determined that they fall into really two classes of use case. And the first are indirect data monetization, and the second are direct data monetization. And I know my friend Barb Wixom just wrote a great book, and she kind of classifies them in three different ways. This is the way I've classified it, dating back 5, 6, 7 years. And we actually continue adding to this, because as we discover new patterns, you'll notice there's some patterns here that are not in the Infonomics book. But indirect data monetization is about how we might be using data internally to drive measurable value. Direct data monetization is about how we're exposing data externally to drive value, usually in the form of cash or some kind of commercial consideration. So indirect data monetization can take the form of improving processes or reducing risk or developing new products or building and solidifying partner relationships. Or I know I mentioned that data can't be a balance sheet asset, but actually, due to some accounting shenanigans, you can actually move your data and digital assets into a separate holding company and value that business. Remember, investors love data companies. So we can say, hey, part of our company is a data company, and then value that company, and then use that to increase the value of the parent company's share price, or valuation. So this is something that we're helping organizations with, is moving their data and digital assets into a separate holding company, valuing that, and so forth. So we're doing it like with the European Football Club and some others of interest. And then direct data monetization, again, is where we're sharing data externally. The first one I put on there is bartering with data, because when you barter with data, there are actually potentially some advantages in doing so, rather than selling it for cash, because remember, data is a non-balance sheet asset, usually. So if we're exchanging data with others and getting some kind of commercial consideration back, I'm not here to give tax advice, West Monroe does not give tax advice, but it may or may not be taxable, depending on how conservative you are. So for example, you go into the grocery store and you scan your loyalty card, right? And you get a discount on your groceries, but we all know what's really happening, which is we're getting free food in return for information about us and our purchase, right? I mean, that's a preordained kind of barter transaction. So the same sort of thing is happening a lot in the B2B world. We could also enhance our existing products or services with data. Think about any product or service that you offer today, or maybe you offered 10 years ago, and how you've enhanced it by baking data into it, or maybe de-informationalizing it, extracting data from it. We can license our raw data ourselves or through data brokers or marketplaces. We can sell insights or analysis or reports. A lot of organizations do that. And then there's this notion of inverted data monetization. Remember, I talked about not being able to monetize our customer data. Well, again, kind of showing a lack of creativity. If you take that idea and kind of flip it on its head and say, listen, I can't sell you my customer data, but I can sell your stuff to my customers without ever exposing who they are. So, for example, we're working with a hospital who knows who its diabetes patients are, can't sell that data to anyone, but what they can do is they can introduce to those patients healthy meal plans and gym memberships and at-home glucose monitoring test kits, and either take a cut of that action, a referral fee, or if you're a hospital, maybe you're doing it as a data for good kind of example, or to reduce hospital returns. So, and Facebook does this as well. So Facebook supposedly doesn't sell, or Meta doesn't sell our data anymore, right? Supposedly, and so, but what they do is they introduce to us products and services that are of interest to us based on our likes and comments and posts. What else do we have here? And then there's collateralizing data to secure loans. So remember I said you don't actually have to use data to generate value from it. Well, one way is to put it on the balance sheet, as I showed earlier. Another way is to use it as collateral, right? And increasingly companies that are data rich and cash poor are finding that they can get loans for their data assets. There's actually a company that we partner with at West Monroe that has a fund that will issue that loan, and they have a valuation model to establish the level of collateral needed. So, and then they've got a technology that will sit on your systems and actually escrow your data on a daily basis into a secured cloud environment, so that if you default, they have access to that data.